Peter V'landys, Chairman of the Australian Rugby League Commission, thank you very much for joining us here on Sky Sports. I'm pinching myself saying this, but we're here in Las Vegas for edition 2 of this adventure, conceptualized by yourself and your team, delivered in 2024, but fair to say a bigger and better version in 2025?
Absolutely, much bigger, because we've got an extra 2 games. We know the Super League game for us is vital, but what we're very proud of is our women. Our women have gone to another level in ability, speed and entertainment. So I think we're going to shock the American audience to show a women's rugby league with the match between Australia and England, how good they are, how physical they are, how hard they hit. It frightens me, actually, when I watch them, how hard they hit. So I think they're going to be really entertained, not only with the Super League match, but with the women's game.
If we take a second to look back at 2024 and you had a chance with your team again to assess it, the success or otherwise of it, what was the wash-up?
Look, we couldn't believe how successful it was, but for us it was successful back home in Australia, because we always have a season launch and it never really cuts through. Going to Vegas, we've received so much publicity, it's really engaged the media and the public in Australia. So the opening of the season now is a major event. Our fans are going to the pubs and the clubs, they're having barbecues, and it's a day to get with your mates and friends and open the season. And the publicity it's generating is priceless. You can't generate that sort of publicity.
You pointed out we've now got the Women's International, but importantly as well for the game in the Northern Hemisphere, we have 2 Super League teams, the champions, the Wigan Warriors, and the challengers run by Sam Burgess, the Warrington Wolves. He eventually got here. Sam, your interactions with Chris Radlinski of the Wigan Warriors and Carl Fitzpatrick of the Warrington Wolves, 2 individuals who are very enthusiastic about getting on board in Vegas. You found what from them?
I found that they want to really grow the game in England, that they are very determined people to make the game as popular as they can, to make it a mainstream sport back in England. They realise how good the game is. Look, there's no better game than rugby league in watching it and being entertained, because it's a form of escapism. When you watch the game, you just escape and you really are entertained by the brilliant athletes that the rugby league players are.
I spoke to some fans, rugby league fans, but generally sporting fans here in Las Vegas. I told them I was doing an interview with you and they said, tell him thank you. We had opportunities this year to either follow the Lions or we could go on an Ashes cricket tour, but we're rugby league fans. They wanted a big event on a major stage. I'm guessing that's what your thinking is. You need to deliver that for rugby league fans.
Look, I think rugby league is one of the most entertaining sports. So what do? You bring it to the entertainment capital of the world. And that's what we've done, and it's just made it all that more. What I've discovered is that this is a destination point for most people. They want to have it on their bucket list to go to Vegas. So to have a rugby league game to give them an excuse to come is a great thing. And look, there's 10,000 come from England. There's 20,000 from Australia.
Can you believe that when you say it, 10,000 from England?
And 8,000 from New Zealand. The only problem I've got is the 10,000 from England far more vocal and singing and carrying on than our 20,000 Australians. I'm going to go back and train our Australians for next year to beat the English crowd, because they're absolutely annihilating us.
They do it better than anybody else. The international element of the game is hugely important. In your role, you're, I won't say constantly at war, but you don't mind tossing some grenades in the direction of the AFL. They may copy you and try to bring an event to a place like this, but what they can't do, and importantly we can do and need to develop, is we can bring that international element. You've got teams from England, you've got teams from New Zealand, you've got teams from Australia, you may in the future have a team from Papua New Guinea here.
Absolutely, and we've got Tonga and Samoa. They're all, and we want to get France back as a powerhouse. I think Wales has got an enormous amount of potential to come back into it. They're good in rugby union, which only has 30 minutes of ball play. In rugby league, we get 59, so the fans are a lot more entertainment. So I think we can turn a lot of people, from Wales. And as you say, the benefit we have from other sports is we're international. And the more we promote international rugby league, the better. That's why we're bringing the Australian team to England. England approached us to promote the game in England. Can you bring the Australian tour over there instead of the English coming to Australia? And we agreed straight away. Simon Moran, one of the great promoters of the game, one of the great promoters of music. When he speaks, we listen. And we've taken the Australia-England match over to England next year, and hopefully it'll really attract some casual fans that can turn into engaged fans.
But just on that point, and this would be something that rugby league fans, diehard rugby league fans would point at, we seem to have an issue with scheduling things in calendars to give people enough advance time to get here. That wasn't the case with Vegas. When we look at the Ashes, tour, the Rugby League Ashes tour, people will start saying even at this stage, nothing yet has been announced.
Now, well, look, we're trying to make the announcement as quickly as possible, but there's a lot of logistic things that you have to, and there's a lot of people you have to consult. It's quite a process, and we're at the final stages of that because, as I said, we've had to turn it around from England coming to Australia, Australia going to England. But look, I think in the next few days, hopefully there will be an announcement of the test matches.
Why is the Super League competition so important to you as chairman of the Australian Rugby League Commission?
Because it's important for the game to be strong in England. If you're going to have an international game, you need England to be strong. You know, there's always the old rivalry between England and Australia. For as long as I can, as a kid, you die to go and watch an England-Australia test match. I've never forgotten that, and the pride of both countries and wearing their national jumper. And we need to get back to that. And without England, you won't have an international game unless England's there. And so it's important for England to have a very, very good domestic competition and grow their players, grow the participation, and then, you know, so they can be competitive against Australia.
How involved are you willing to get in your role as chair of the ARLC? Some people have mentioned things like NRL Europe. Is that something that you would even consider?
Look, we would consider anything, but we're not people that go in and ask for it. If we're asked to look at it, if Super League said to us, would you mind coming and having a look and seeing how we can develop into some sort of partnership, we would welcome it, you know. But I'm not going to go in there and force ourselves on them. They've got to be the participants that want to come to us and look at because you never force yourself on anyone, otherwise it doesn't work.
Could that be an investment, a financial investment and/or an expertise investment?
It could be a financial investment and an expertise investment, and just to do things that we've had success back in Australia and replicate them in England. You know, that's because we're a family. The rugby league is a family. So if you can help another part of the family, we're willing to do so.
I always say rugby league needs a front man. It needs a P.T. Barnum, and it's fair to say, Peter V'landys, you're the P.T. Barnum for the game. You had a great relationship with the late Queen through your mutual love of horse racing. Did you ever get to extol to her the virtues of rugby league?
I tried my hardest because I actually sat next to her at the lunch, and I spoke to her for an hour and a half, and she was one of the most entertaining people. And an hour and a half felt like 5 minutes with her. And I didn't know, but the protocol was you're supposed to speak 15 minutes with the Queen and 15 minutes with the person next to you. And the person next to me was actually Camilla, which I now really regret not spending a little bit more time with. So I was the between two queens in a sense. And look, I tried to explain to her all about rugby league, and she knew about it, but her real passion was horse racing. She was just fanatical about horse racing. And look, I was so saddened, in her passing, because she was such a wonderful human being.
As was the country of England in its entirety. Donald Trump, you went to great lengths to try and persuade the President of the United States to come here to Las Vegas, come and see our games. Why was that so important for you?
What it's important to me is Donald Trump is a walking billboard. You know, like him or hate him, he receives more publicity than any person in the world. So if he came to our game, everyone would know what the word rugby league was in America, because it would be on every station, it would be on every digital platform, it would be everywhere. It would be saturation coverage. So if we could get him and we got that saturation coverage, you can't buy that publicity. And you'll cut through in 1 month. That could take 10 to 20 years. And that's why we invited him. And look, he's a character, and as I said, he just generates a lot of publicity.
Peter, it's the most ferocious field sport in the world. I don't think that's beyond argument. You've brought it to the entertainment capital of the world. When you walk around, and you've been very, very busy man, but you're surrounded by thousands of fans wearing jerseys from not just the clubs that are playing here, but beyond that as well. What do you think inside in those quiet moments?
I always think of next year and how we can do things better, and what else can we do? You know, what have we done wrong? And I've learned a lot from this trip, and especially on how to make a bigger impact into the American sporting market. We're learning as we're going along. It was never going to be, you know, immediate success. It was a 5-year plan. Keep learning, keep growing. And I think the third year is going to be our real test, because we've got 2 years under our belt now, and I think the third year is going to be crucial, and I think it'll be the most successful.
Will Super League and the women's game be part of your planning for the third year for 2026?
Look, if Super League are willing to come, absolutely. You know, and they've added another dimension to it. I don't remember ever in my career where Super League and the NRL have played on the same day in the same venue ever. So it's unique, it's historical. And and it might grow it even a bit closer, where we do that maybe even in England, and and Australia, where during the season we can have a match in each other's country.
Driven largely by yourself and the great team you've got built around you, the game in Australia is on an upward trajectory, Australia and New Zealand, I should say. What message could you deliver to those die-hard, born and bred rugby league fans in the Northern Hemisphere that are desperate to see their game hit the heights that you have?
Look, what we did is we looked at rugby league and we said we had to make it entertaining. And the way that rugby league is, unfortunately, we're very insular. We're in a cocoon. We look at what the players want, what the coaches want, and we never ever considered what the fan wants. And what does the fan want? The fan wants to be entertained. So that's why we introduced the 6 again, for less stoppages. And it was also to stop the wrestling that came into the game. And that brought the fans back because it was full-on, fast, entertaining rugby league. And that's what they want to see. They don't want to see predictable rugby league. They don't want to see four hit-ups and then, they put it out to the back. So they want to be entertained, unpredictable. We put the captain's challenge on to give them, they're not being ripped off in a decision or which could change the match. And that in itself causes controversy and discussion in pubs and clubs. And then we put the 2-point field goal. And the reason for that is right till the last minute, somebody could still either draw, and it happened. I mean, who could forget Nathan Cleary's field goal that went into extra time and etc. So you got to make the game entertaining. You got to listen to one of the most important people, and that is the fan. Because if you don't have the fan, you don't have anything. The players don't get paid, and there is no ecosystem. So for me, what they've got to look at is how do you make it more entertaining? And look, Live Golf has copied to a certain degree, and now it's just going off in Australia how popular it is an event in Adelaide, in one of our cities, because they've done it into an entertainment package. Everything you do, you've got to make it entertaining, and people have got X amount of disposable income, and there's so much competition for them to spend it on. Well, if you're going to spend it on rugby league, you want to entertain them, and if you don't entertain them, you're not going to get them, and you want to turn those casual fans into engaged fans, and that's the real success if you can change from casual to engaged.
You're one of the great leaders in world sport. I'll finish on this question. What does leadership look like to you?
Look, leadership to me thinks you've got to take risks. You've got to and back yourself. Don't ever doubt yourself. Because the minute you start listening to the critics or listening to the white noise behind you, you'll achieve nothing. You've got to plough forward. If you think you're doing the right thing, never be scared. Just plough forward.
Not shy and retiring, but a very humble man. Peter V'landys, thank you very much for joining us on Sky Sports.
My pleasure.